Hey, everybody. Today for you, podcast number 63. Today's podcast is titled, Somebody's Watching Me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network podcast where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life you were called to lead. And with me, of course, is my beautiful wife, Sandy.
Hello.
Hey, there she is. Yeah, I know a lot of people just tune in to hear your voice.
I don't think that's true.
I don't know. I think so. I think you've got some raving fans. So I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you raving fans. And once again, I'm just blown away at the positive comments that we keep getting from different practice members, friends, text messages, emails. It really means a lot to us. And a shout out to Dr. Chris Brown in Southwest Virginia, who's listening to the podcast, a regular listener. He actually gave us some great ideas. I think we're going to incorporate something he sent us into next week's podcast. So shout out to Dr. Brown. And if you're enjoying the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button, like, follow, share, all that stuff that you do in this type of format. So,
And I think that made me come up with an idea that if you have a topic that you would like us to possibly cover on a podcast, shoot us that idea.
Oh, that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you have a topic you want us to dig deeper on, or maybe you heard something that was inspiring to you, and you want to hear what we have to think, have to say about it, we'll give a listen and we'll check it out and we'll give it some play. So anyway, on with the show, as we say in show business. This is podcast. Is podcasting show business? I don't know. I don't think it is, really. Anyway, so today's episode titled Somebody's Watching Me. The backstory is last week and a half, 2 weeks, actually much longer than that. For quite a while, I've been looking to hire an associate doctor. And last week, I got the agreement and the go-ahead, and we hired an associate doctor, and he started Monday. Mm-hmm. And so all day on Monday, I had a new set of eyes in the office watching every move that I made and asking me a lot of questions about the way we operate and the way we care for people. And it was an intense time. And it made me realize that it actually made me way more on point than I usually am. I mean, I think I'm on point, but when somebody is listening to every word that you say and watching every move that you make, you are definitely on point. So anyway, I looked at this as like, wow, this is a bit intense, but it's also an excellent opportunity for me to be better at everything that I do. So I'm actually super excited about it. Dr. Tim Jennings, great guy. We're super glad that he's part of our team, and he's going to help a lot of people. So excited to have him on board. So point number one is, who holds you accountable besides yourself? So who do you have in your life, Sandy, that's holding you accountable?
I think it's obviously those closest to you that see you regularly, your family, your spouse, possibly kids that hold you accountable on things, and close friends. I was just working out with a friend this morning, and I said to her, I need to do this one again this week. Can you please text me if I don't tell you that I've completed it? And so it's good to have accountability in areas of life. And there's also good opportunities to hire that accountability person, whether it be a personal trainer or a business coach. You're actually hiring their services to direct your steps and make sure you're completing them.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the people or the groups that you mentioned were your children. Mm-hmm. And, it makes me think of the title, Somebody's Watching Me. And my goodness, when you first have a child and they can start to talk And then some of the things that they say, you're like, where did they get that? Well, guess who they've been watching? Those were my words that they just repeated.
Yeah.
So it made us very quickly be very aware of what comes out of our mouth around our kids. So,
Well, and now that you bring that up, everything, like I remember that we were watching a TV show and realized all of a sudden Nate's, our oldest, was, watching kind of while he was playing. And we're like, this probably isn't the greatest show anymore to have on,
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I remember that. Okay. Point number 2, teaching is the greatest form of learning. So there's all different types of learning, right? You can demonstrate something. You can, regurgitate some information. You can repeat it back to somebody. You can take a multiple choice test and circle an answer and maybe even guess because it reminds you of possibly the answer of what you learned. But real learning is when you can actually teach somebody else something. So can you think of an example of that, Sandy?
Yeah, he laughs at me when I'm trying to do. Grace is in 7th grade this year, and we're doing a physical science, and it incorporates chemistry on a entry level, but still challenging my knowledge of chemistry that I recall. And so typically a lot of homeschool is just open and go. You just open the book and teach for the day. But I am needing to do some prep work and pulling up different teaching videos to teach myself so then I therefore can teach her. So
right. But you're learning chemistry probably better than you ever learned it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because, unfortunately in our educational system, the learning that takes place is to pass a test. And once you pass the test, oftentimes you just dump that information because you're not using it again and you're not a teacher. You're not reteaching the information. But when you can truly teach something in depth, you're developing mastery of learning right there. So,
well, and I was thinking of that too because Grace just wants to get it done, and she's almost like, I'm like, can you explain that back to me? I'll often say to her, it doesn't matter. I just want to get it done. And I'm like,
no, it matters.
What a waste of our time if we're just doing it to get it done. What's the point, right? But
the point is to get it done.
Yeah.
The point for her is to get outside.
Right. And that's why I didn't learn it the first time
Exactly. So it's also an age appropriate thing, right? The wisdom comes with time too. Okay, so that brings us to point number 3. And this is a very good point because in a teaching moment, I listened to somebody tell me something that they thought was exactly the way it's supposed to be, but it's not. It didn't sound good. It didn't come out right, and it was obviously something that they've never really done. They've never really said it themselves before. So it was not to know and not to do is to not know is kind of the quote here, but. It really is thinking that you know how to do something, yet your actions don't really show it. So this doesn't just apply to teaching, but it applies to many, many areas of our life. If we know about something, but we don't actually take any action, then we really don't know. It's really not something that we know that intimately. So, Sandy, you changed this from to know and not do is a waste.
Yeah. I was thinking, what a waste of opportunity, a waste of time. Why acquire the knowledge if you're not going to apply it and use it? And our pastor spoke on a point this Sunday. He was talking about faith, but he said, you can accumulate all this knowledge, but until you act on it, like that's true faith is the action part and the doing part. And that sat with me a bit, like what good is it? So many lives that you could be impacting if you acted on it.
Right. Well, it made me think when he said that you can know the Bible backwards and forwards. You can listen to all these podcasts and sermons, and you can have a whole warehouse of knowledge and information all stored in files on a shelf somewhere. But if you don't ever actually do anything with it, if you don't put it into action, if you don't, push it forward and get it out there, then what good is it? It's a waste.
Right.
It's really a waste because it dies with you. It dies on the shelf, right? So I just thought that was extremely poignant to this very topic is that, very often we think we know something just because we've read it and we have had knowledge. But if you don't have physical experience with it, if you haven't actually put it into play, then you really don't intimately know it.
You have
Yeah.
to, like, own it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to point number 4. And we're talking all about this action. Well, how much action? Like, that's point number 4 is how much work does it take? How much work does it take? And would you say that we overestimate how much work it's going to take, or do we underestimate the work?
Under, for sure.
Yeah. So you have a great idea to do something. You want to build a house, and you're like, yeah, we're going to build a house.
Rock wall.
Yeah. I remember when we first moved into our first house, Sandy said, hey, I think we should go take some of those field stones and build a rock wall today.
Just on a random Saturday.
On a Saturday. And I said, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and do that? I'm going to take a shower.
I think you said get started.
Yeah, I said, go get started. And so I went down there, and she had about an hour or two later, she had about 4 rocks in the back of the pickup truck. And she said, these rocks are heavy. This is a lot of work. Took me a month to do the rock wall project.
Yeah. Well, this is funny. This is totally off script, but my vision was like this little bitty rock wall around the mailbox, maybe 5 feet. But Pete's vision was much bigger, and it went the full length of our property line.
Oh,
so
yeah. Well, that's what I thought you meant by a rock wall, not a little rock garden. Yeah. So anyway, it also makes me think of in survival school, if you were to have to spend a night in the wilderness, like say you get lost and you're going to be cold, the temperature's going down, and you have the ability to start a fire, and you're thinking, how much wood will I need to keep me warm all night? And the rule of thumb is go out and gather as much wood as you think you need for the night, and then go out and get 4 times more. Because that amount that you think you're going to need will probably burn up in about an hour to an hour and a half. Because we grossly underestimate how much the work is really required. Because you just have no idea what it's like because you've never experienced it. So in life, the work is the work, and it brings us to point number 5, and that is just be decisive. You have to decide to go ahead and do it. The more you put it off, the longer it's going to take to get the work done. Yeah. Be decisive and take action. It's the podcast is kind of like that. Like somebody's watching us. You guys are watching us, and we know that every week people are going to be looking for this to drop in their email and to get the reminders that the podcast is there because you're going to watch it. And so we know we have to get the work done. We have to be decisive. We have to take action, and we have to make it, complete the project. And it is some work. And you just do the work. Do the work no matter how big the project is. I remember I was listening to a guy talk about how, when he did a big project, what he thought was a big project took him a whole day. He would tell everybody it took him a whole day to do this project. And then he started looking at, wow, I really didn't do that much. And then another project took him, he started measuring it in hundreds of hours. So it took me, 1,200 hours to do this project. And that's when it took me 1,400 hours to do this project. And then he wrote a book. It took him an entire year to do. So every day he worked on it for an entire year. So, it just realized that to complete something, it is a lot of work. But the only way it'll ever get done is to do the work. And the only way that ever happens is to be decisive and take action. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to the podcast?
No, great.
All right. I guess we finished it. All right. So that's all we have for this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. Tune in each and every week so that you can stay connected, be inspired, and keep moving toward your best life by stripping away all of your limitations. And we will see you back next week. I think we will. Come on, music. There's the music. The music button stuck. Sorry. Because I know some of you love the music.